Life as we know it slowed down in many ways over the last year because of the pandemic. But one thing that has not slowed in the area is building. There has instead been a building boom in the four-state area. Here to talk about that building boom is Assistant Director of Public Works for the City of Joplin, Dan Johnson. So talk about, we'll start with you, Dan, this year compared to last year during the height of the pandemic. Is this much faster, more building?
We have stayed very busy. The Public Works staff and the planning staff, the building division and the engineering division, we both are involved in new buildings, both residential and commercial. And we have both been very busy with the current building.
Mm-hmm. And so talk about some of the new construction in Joplin, some of the biggest new construction. What's on the works?
A couple of items that stick out that residents notice is on 7th Street, we have an amazing new Jasper County Courthouse. That's a big project. It's exciting to see. We also have the new art center where the parking lot for the Memorial Hall used to be. That's also a very exciting project. As it's taking shape, you see what the drawings looks like versus with all that steel up, you realize what a big building it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, at first when I saw the courthouse construction and I saw Crossland's nets up at both, I thought they were just parking their equipment there. And then somebody's like, no, that's a whole other project.
Yes.
So that's a lot of influx in not just building, but dollars for the city.
There's also been the new development around the Sam's Club off of 32nd and east of Range Line. There's been a lot of clearing, a lot of work going on there. There's going to be some new public roads, and there's going to be some new commercial buildings moving in there to start construction. But some of the bigger infrastructure has to get in place first.
Yeah, that's one thing I was real curious about. When you build new buildings like that, what is there now, ground, trees, things that absorb the water, like where the houses are built now used to be just land. That water's got to go somewhere. What type of planning and process goes on in advance of building to take care of that?
The planning starts very early. It was, I believe, close to 2 years ago. In the case of the folks are calling it the Menards development behind Sam's Club. That development there, it's a good example. We look at that development there versus the new courthouse. In the case of the Menards development, what you had here was basically a big green field. There was a lot of trees, a lot of grass. There was not a lot of pavement, a lot of what we call impervious area. Right. So all of that had to be taken into account. And so going through that process, the engineering consultants on that project, which is a local engineering firm, Anderson Engineering, what they did was they used their staff, their expertise to model storms, different types of rain events, and find out which one caused how much flooding. And then they predicted what kind of buildings were going to be there. And they've used those predictions, put into their model, and determined how big, how much extra water would be coming off that and how it would be coming off. And then they designed what are called detention basins. That one, I believe it has 4 detention basins, and they're very large. For anyone that's wondering what a detention basin is, the one that folks see most often is at 15th and Murphy Boulevard.
Okay.
You see that whole area filling up with water. That's on purpose. We want it to do that. And what that does is that's just basically the engineering way of saying, gosh, I know that there's going to be flooding. I want to cause that flooding to happen right here in a controlled way.
Right. Yeah, there was some places on May 27th that it just flooded, and with that big rain event, and there's water across 20th Street out towards the Duquesne area where I've never seen water before across the roads. And there are a couple of ponds where I think that's similar to what you're talking about, where the water would go.
Yes, at the middle school
there, and then also Schubert Mitchell, where they're building 3 new subdivisions right there.
Yes.
And there's one in that vicinity. And yeah, I guess that's where the water's supposed to go, but then there was more water than that day could handle.
Yes, the that event, it was a people like to throw the term 100-year event. And that particular event, it was a 100-year storm for the 3-hour storm. You can have a 100-year event for 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 24.
And it can happen all year long.
If you're going to have one, you're better off to have a 3-hour than a 24-hour.
Oh yeah.
So we did have it was a big event, and it did exceed the 100-year event in parts of the city.
Right.
So other parts of the city had less, but it was still significant all over the city.
Right. And Brian, right now, the numbers that we have that you all gave us, that building permits issued for residential construction, new residential construction, are sitting at $1.2 million and some change. And for commercial permits, it's $22.3 million. How does that compare to last year?
Last year was a banner year. Total dollar project-wise, it was more than the previous 2 years combined. So we're a little behind last year, but not far. I mean, it's a strong year on the residential and commercial side again this year.
And so the pandemic really didn't touch that number much at all.
It doesn't appear to, no.
And so you guys are really busy. Your
Yes.
department, you said 5, including you?
Yes.
What do you do in the time frame of a day? How does that work out for you?
Well, I mean, obviously we're dealing with multiple projects at once. So a project would start, the first time we would hear about it would be what we like to start with, the pre-development meeting, where we meet with either the developers or the architects, the engineers, whoever, and sit down with them, get an idea of what their projects are going to be, and then have a chance to sit down and ask them questions and try to prevent as many roadblocks down the road as we can right up front. Then it moves to the plan review stage, to where we have a full-time plan reviewer that does nothing but sit there and look at blueprints and make sure that all the plans meet the minimum requirements of the adopted building code. Several different departments in the city also take part in that. The fire department will do a plan review, the engineering department, the health department. So that can take some time, but that's one of the 5 people in the building department. That's all they do. Then we're ready to issue the permit, and the project's ready to start. So then I've got building inspectors that are out in the field that inspect on a house probably 15 to 20 different times throughout the process of building the home.
Wow.
And so they're out there every day. Each one is doing about 30 inspections a day right now. And so we follow that all the way to the end, to where lots of times we are right up against the deadline. The house is closing, the people are wanting to move in, and we're there doing the last inspection all on the same day. So that's what we do.
And the building codes changed. We were talking about this earlier, significantly after the tornado. Talk about that process. What was implemented right after then that makes it more safe now?
Joplin, like most cities in the country, we adopt we review our building codes and adopt our new codes every 6 years on a 6-year cycle. After the tornado, there was a few things just within the days looking at the buildings after the tornado that we noticed that could have made a difference on some of the properties. Nothing would have made a difference in the middle of the tornado path, no matter how you designed it. We saw that with the hospital. But there were things on the edges of the tornado path that we noticed were similar from one house to the next that could have been possibly even prevented if that would have been built a little bit different way for not much more cost. So there were two things. We looked at how far apart the anchor bolts were on the foundation, especially the block foundations. We had a lot of open cell hollow block foundations, and the houses that were sitting on those just were not anchored down to the footing as well as what they could have been. Same thing with the roof, the framing of the roof. There's building code had ways of and identifies different ways of tying the roof onto the walls, and so you've got a continuous load path all the way from the roof all the way down to your footing, tying everything into one piece. And we actually amended the code and increased that anchoring system. In some ways, the International Building Code has actually caught up with us since the tornado, and they automatically require some of those changes that we noticed early on after the tornado.
Yeah, I had heard that Joplin standards now kind of set the bar for that, and that's a pretty big deal for us. And so, tell me, what is the future looking like with, now cost for houses to build a house is extraordinarily high. Do you see that having any effect?
Lumber materials, yes. I think we've seen some of the construction just recently start to slow down a little bit because of the inability of contractors to get the materials. Not so much the cost, but they just can't get their hands on the materials. I've been told and I've recognized just within the last few weeks, it looks like it might be correcting itself a little bit. But I wish I could predict what that's going to do. So far, overall, it hasn't had an effect, amazingly, but it could for sure if it continues on. Yeah.
And Dan, talk about the stores that Menards, you were talking about that it would be the anchor store. There's going to be also a stoplight going in somewhere in that vicinity?
Right. There's actually a couple of signalized intersection projects. There will be a new stoplight at where the Hammonds Boulevard, the new rerouted Hammonds Boulevard, comes out onto 32nd Street.
Oh, it's not going to be the same place.
Which will be, it's going to be pushed farther east, closer towards the railroad tracks. We were very careful. We have, on the long-range transportation plans, we intend for there to be a viaduct over the railroad at some point. I can say that I've worked at the city for 15 years, and in that 15 years, we've put in 2 viaducts and a railroad bridge over the street. So we do get that stuff done. Those are big projects, but Joplin's the size of city that can tackle that, and we have a good track record. So we didn't want this new street to be in a location that would not allow us later on to make that improvement. Right. And so we were careful when we put it there. The second signalized intersection improvement going on out there is actually there at 36th and Range Line. That signal, the intention there is to improve the intersection, get a better flow of traffic through there. We're pushing for having 2 left turn lanes on the side coming from the Sam's, and in the future there will be additional traffic coming through there. So we're trying to get out ahead of that.
That'll make a lot of people happy.
Yes, yes. It's really, it's one of those things where we're taking this opportunity to improve the safety and make it easier to get in and out and do your business.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for talking to us about this. It sounds like the economy in Joplin is continuing to expand. We really appreciate you coming in. Coming up next, we talk to Webb City's administrator about his city's growth and the latest details on the new hotel and business expansion.
Nature needs your help now more than ever. Every year, thousands of animals are killed by poachers. World Wildlife Fund is on the ground, working to protect species and their habitats. We can't do it alone. Join us.
Dear humans, this is an adoption campaign, but it's not for me, or Mr. Buttons, or Frank over there. It's for you, humans. This is a call to humans to adopt our movement, to adopt our cause.
This isn't just about saving one of us.
It's about saving all of us.
Thousands of lives, every single day.
It's about support for every one of us four, and sometimes not four-legged best friends waiting to meet a best friend of our own. With Best Friends Animal Society leading the charge.
Shelter by shelter, city by city.
We can save thousands of pets each day. Join us. Together we can save them all.
Welcome back. Joining me now is City Administrator for Webb City, Carl Francis. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So you guys have a new hotel going in at the roundabout there on 171, and there's a ton of other construction. Talk about what's going on in that area.
Well, several years ago, the City Council authorized a project called Centennial Park. It's a retail, commercial, industrial project that the city purchased a lot of the land that had been reclaimed by the EPA over the years. And the hotel and Atwoods, Redemption Motorsports, a lot of businesses have already went in, but we're still working hard to get more.
And what else is going in over there?
We have a franchise restaurant that is real close to starting construction. We have a grocery store that actually we should be closing on today. The property is with the title company right now. Once that starts, these projects take time. The hotel was a couple of years in the planning process. The whole area we've been working on this well over 10 years now, and these projects take time with everything going on right now with material prices and things going on. It's slowing things down a little bit, but there's still a construction boom going on in Webb City.
And there's a lot of residential buildings as well, not just in that area, but Schubert Mitchell, they've built several new subdivisions in your city. Yeah,
Schubert Mitchell's been responsible for a large increase in our residential R1 areas, but we've also had other builders involved. American Midwest Manufacturing has been coming in with some buying some of the older lots in town. We've had a developer that's came to council a couple of times and purchased some properties that we usually just mowed, old tax properties and things like that. So we're seeing a resurgence in our north and west and north and east part of town also. Some of the older areas are really starting to see a lot of new housing being built.
And what type of planning goes in as far as like infrastructure for big projects like that, sewer and stormwater, when you take what used to be land and put houses on there, the water's got to go somewhere. Yeah.
Technically, the developer is responsible for increasing the infrastructure out to an area where they're doing a development. We have to plan things like a capacity of our sewer plant, the capacity of our water system. We are adding a new well right now. We still have the connection with MOAM that we can use. We can turn on and off as needed. But we are putting in a new well. We're working with the 201 board, who's our group that runs and operates the sewer treatment plant. We're keeping a close eye on capacity. We know that someday down the road we'll have to increase our capacity, but we work real hard with things like continuing authority permits to make sure that these developments do not overburden our infrastructure system. Like, for example, with the Centennial Park, we added hundreds and hundreds of feet of sewer line. And when we do that we oversize them. So knowing that down the road, we're going to need that capacity.
Build for the future.
Correct.
And how does this year compare to last year when it comes to permits and?
Well, building-wise, right now in Webb City, we're seeing a significant increase this year over last year, and last year was really kind of a banner year, except for those couple of months there where the pandemic had things shut down for a little while. We did see a small slowdown then, but boy, when it came back strong. We're at about 240 building permits right now total in the city of Webb City. Whereas last year we did about 330 the entire year. So it's just a fifth. So 6 months. So we're seeing a significant increase in our building permits, and we're seeing it. We're working hard to work with our commercial vendors and diversify our economic base in Webb City, and we're helping them in any way we can. And
did sales tax revenues fall very much last year, or did you guys still?
No, we actually saw an increase in sales tax revenue in 2019, 2020, and now it looks like in 2021 we're seeing a significant increase. It's as high as 9 to 10% in some areas.
Wow.
So we think that, yes, with the pandemic lightening, people getting out and shopping more, but we also think that it's an increase in our diverse economic base. I mean, no longer we just have one big store in town. We have lots of many. Downtown has seen a revitalization that it hasn't seen in years. The boutiques downtown are becoming an attraction. Just a Taste downtown has really expanded their ability to cater to a product that we've just not had downtown before.
And so when in May there was a huge rain event at the end of May, and city streets were flooded, not just in Webb City but everywhere, where before they hadn't been that bad. Did you guys experience?
We really didn't. We were very fortunate during that rain event. I don't know if it was just a difference in the amount of rain that fell in our area, or we have been working really hard to try and increase our retention, especially around the King Jack Park area. You have to understand how stormwater works in Webb City. We basically have two areas, one on the east and one on the west. The west side, we have purchased hundreds of acres of land through the Cardinal Valley Habitat Restoration Project with the Department of Natural Resources and the EPA. That serves really that area. We've been working hard to make it to where it kind of serves as a retention area in the times of heavy flooding. It holds water back. The same with on the east side, the west side would be the King Jack Park area. We have basically turned the area north of the ball fields, or south of the ball fields, the north side of that area into one big retention area. And we try really hard to try and keep it. As a matter of fact, last week during that big rainstorm, we found 3 tree stumps.
Oh my.
Yeah, along Oronogo Street in a major storm drain. Caused a big problem for a few minutes until we got it figured out, because water started backing up instantly, and I got a couple of phone calls, and we went out there and we found these tree stumps that somebody had dumped in the ditch.
Oh.
That causes a big problem. But we're working really hard on our retention, trying to slow the water down. Back in the days, several years ago, if we had a rain like that, there's a swimming pool over there off of Broadway Street that used to get flooded because it kind of sits in a flood zone. It didn't get flooded this year.
Oh, that's
we were
good.
kind of proud of
Yeah.
that. The bridge at Ayler Street has been gone over several times. That didn't happen this year. And that was a pretty significant rain event. So we think we're making some progress on our stormwater. It's never going to be perfect and never going to make everybody happy.
Well, especially in situations like that where the rain just, inundated everything.
Yeah, and we've had significant rain events, and we've had some damage in the past, but as far as I know, in this last rain event, we had no significant damage at all.
And do you help, or I guess Webb City and Joplin kind of share the industrial park, right? Half of it's
correct
on
the
Webb
one
City side?
Yeah, the one that sits between Webb City and Joplin there off of Madison and Rangeline.
And there's been a lot of expansion out in that area too.
Yeah, Don's Cold Storage is the big one. He's increased well over 100,000 square feet. Just drove by that on the way here. I was looking, they're nearly complete.
It's huge.
That is a monster facility, multi-million-dollar investment by the company. Don Conan, I consider a friend of mine. He owns it. He's one of the owners, and they've been working really hard, and they've been taking advantage of the situation we have here and where we're located in the United States with the interstate access and the different companies and our labor pool. They're taking advantage and building a big company right here in downtown Webb City.
Yeah, and the new flights coming into Joplin, I talked to the chamber last week, and they said that that's a huge plus for businesses.
Absolutely. Anytime you can travel in and out that quickly, it's definitely something that people need to take advantage of.
And that counts as far as bringing in employees as well. Have you guys seen any kind of a shortage in that realm, like most businesses have?
I hate to use the word shortage, but yeah, almost every business in town has a help wanted sign out in front of it right now. I think that a lot of people are looking to hire. I've had discussions with some of our major employers who are, they're eager. They're out there recruiting. Right now, jobs are plentiful in this area, not just Webb City, but all around.
And you probably have the same, I guess, issue, problem, whatever, that there are more jobs, and with the expansions, there are more people coming to the area.
And that's probably what's helping with the housing boom. We all kind of sit around and look at each other sometimes and go, where are all these people coming from? But and talking with the schools, a lot of it is relocating too. It's not just new people coming to town. I think that a lot of people are starting to take some advantage of some of the housing prices, and some people are selling and buying new, downsizing. Some people are upsizing. I think there's just a lot of movement in the housing market right now.
And what I've heard also is that some big cities, now that a lot of people can work from home, they're going to sell their houses in a big city and move to a smaller, more affordable area like ours and just work from home.
Well, that's definitely a national trend. Maybe it could be contributing to some of our increase in housing sales here. Everybody knows that the Southwest Missouri, Webb City, Joplin, Carthage area, we're all in a low cost area compared to most places in the United States. And as we like to say in Webb City, we love it here, and we hope everybody else does too.
Thanks for giving us all that information on the latest expansions in Webb City. We really appreciate it. I want to thank the City of Joplin and Webb City for joining us. This is Newsmakers on KGCS TV from the Ruth Copeland Studios here at Missouri Southern State University, and I'm Bobby Potroff. We'll see you again soon.